Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Horse's Mouth Live. My name is Ellen Rogin, and as always, we have great information to help you in every area of your life, especially your business. And today's topic is really both a business topic and a personal topic. And we're going to talk about how to deal with stress that's coming into your business for you, for your clients, for your team, and not letting this get to a burnout place. And we know, I don't have to tell you, markets are crazy. There's lots of news about what's happening in the economy or what might be inflationary times. And there's so much that can feel out of your control, which there is, but what you can't control is how you're dealing with these things. And it's really, really crucial to think about this. I think there's a tendency for advisors to be out there like, okay, how do I make this okay for my clients? It's important to also focus on yourself and your team. And we have an amazing, amazing guest today, my friend, Gina Calvano, who I've known for many, many years. And Gina brings a really interesting perspective to this. Her background is as a career coach. She's a former HR executive, and she also is a consultant for HR now, who empowers people to get on the path of purpose, to overcome burnout, and reignite their ability to do their most powerful work that they love, even sometimes in a job they hate. Hopefully you're not hating your job right now, but I know it happens as advisors. There's times that are way more fun than others. And hopefully, your team may be facing this now too. There's just a lot of pressure there. So we're going to be talking about that. She has a proven framework to help people move through their careers. And it was the basis of her best-selling book, yay, drum roll, From Burnout to Purpose, which I was part of the process from kind of conception to this book being born with Gina. And just so great to see this. She has so much experience. Again, she was an HR director and has worked with companies like Prudential and Alliance Bernstein and other financial services companies. So she knows our industry well, and also worked with individuals in career coaching. So Gina, welcome. So glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. So interesting. You have a background and tons of work as a career coach for people. Mm-hmm. And yet your book is on burnout and moving from burnout to purpose. I don't think it's that usual for career coaches to be focusing on this. Tell us a little bit about why you got into this and why it's important and why it was actually the basis of this book.
So it's interesting because when I started my practice over 10 years ago, I originally was going to help people who wanted to do career change. They decided already that they weren't fulfilled in what they were doing, and either a life circumstance or just a personal preference. They wanted to make a change, but couldn't figure out what. So that was my focus. And by meeting people at all different ages. Like I had clients that were in the C-suite. I had clients that were in their final year of college and knew they didn't want a job in that major, but they just wanted to get the degree. I started finding that my clients really had a lot in common in terms of where they were that was leading them to think they should switch careers. And the essence is that they all had full-on burnout or some dimension of burnout. And even if they weren't on that path full out, they were stuck, overwhelmed, confused, and this has been going on for a long time. So I started realizing, wow, if I really want to help people with career exploration, I have to get their minds clear about who they are and what they want, because all the career research in the world isn't going to mean anything if they have nothing that they can match it to, no authentic sense of self. So I really felt like, wow, the first thing I have to do is clear the road from this path of burnout that they're on.
So when you say burnout, is that like the same as stress, or what's the difference between burnout and stress, Gina?
Yeah, that's a great question. Everybody is stressed, right? We all experience stress. And, for people who their job requires that they're working in a stressful situation. Financial advisors, what's going on in the economy right now is incredibly stressful for you yourself, as well as for the clients that you have and what they're dealing with. Stress, I always say, is a jargon word, and it's just a jargon word for fear. Fear means, trying to achieve something from a fear-based perspective, meaning we're really, really clear and comfortable and knowledgeable about what we don't want to happen, right? What we can see so clearly, all the stuff that can go wrong. And when you're dealing with something as unpredictable and subjective and volatile as the markets, that really can breed some fear-based thinking sometimes. So stress is really just that. And burnout, on the other hand, is when we chronically are operating from a fear-based perspective or a stressed perspective. The World Health Organization recently defined burnout as a syndrome from chronic workplace stress that hasn't been successfully managed. So the difference, I think, is there's a nobility to being stressed, but accomplishing something anyway. But there is no nobility in being burned out. Burnout is not a word people want to be associated with. But the reality is allowing yourself to operate from stress or from a fear-based perspective, knowing what you don't want to happen for too long, it definitely puts you on what I call the path to burnout.
So how does someone know if they're just stressed or they're really on this path to burnout, as you call it? Like, how would they know that? What are some of the symptoms or keys?
Right. Well, I believe it starts as subtly as chronic overwhelm, right? Chronically stressed, chronically overwhelmed. And overwhelm to me has a lot to do with feeling like we have too many things to do at once. And a lot of that is steeped in other people's agendas, right? Like what other people want me to do or accomplish or say or be or learn or know. So it can start as subtly as this chronic feeling of overwhelm. And actual burnout, there are three particular dimensions of burnout. One of them everybody can experience from time to time is exhaustion, chronic exhaustion. And it's not just physical exhaustion, it's physical, mental, emotional exhaustion. Just being so depleted at the end of the day that you just feel like you don't have the energy. The second dimension is cynicism. So cynicism means just really looking at everything through this filter of, again, being very clear what could go wrong or that there's some negative perspective behind a way that you think or that you believe. And the third dimension is powerlessness. Just this sense that you can't get done the things that matter to you to get done. I just don't have it in me, either because other people's agendas are firing off, or I'm not the one in control, I'm not the one with the power. The reality is, having any one of those dimensions, we all may experience them, even at certain points in each day, for fleeting moments. We all may have moments of feeling any one of those things or multiple things. But when it's chronic, and we have all three, that is the ultimate marker of burnout. And allowing yourself to stay in exhaustion, cynicism, powerlessness over time really is full-on burnout. And when we allow burnout to go on over time, it can actually lead to health effects such as cardiovascular issues, anxiety, and depression. Depression is life exhaustion, life burnout. Other common disorders are back, neck, shoulder disorders, having common infections, people who say, oh, I get a cold every spring or every summer, having these chronic common infections, inflammation, type 2 diabetes, low immune system, your immune system is not functioning optimally, and just low physical activity. The other aspects of burnout that a lot of people don't necessarily talk about is it can also be just feeling completely disconnected from a sense of purpose, fulfillment, an ability to be innovative, or having a capacity to be productive.
Okay, so if someone feels like they either someone they know or love is heading down this path, or they're like, hey, I think Gina's talking about me. Like, what do you do about that?
Right. So my approach is a little bit different because I personally experienced burnout when I was 26 years old, and I went out looking for help. I spoke with counselors, I spoke with career coaches, and I wasn't really finding what I needed. So I was able to get myself out of burnout in this, and really what I had to admit to myself is that this sense of exhaustion and cynicism and powerlessness really was a byproduct of my soul being depleted. It transcended just a bruised ego or feeling like, everybody was, not pulling their weight, or that I wasn't in sync with people. There was something in my soul that was depleted. How often will people describe their job as soul sucking, right? So I really learned quickly that the reality is you cannot fix a depleted soul with solutions designed to nurture the ego. So I really had to figure out what is going to make the difference here. And what I mean by soul, let me just clarify that, is the soul is really just the truth of who you are. It's what we were born to enable in this world, on this planet, for other people as well as for ourselves. So just this chronic feeling that I wasn't doing something that I was meant to do for other people. When we're coming from a place where our ego is bruised, we just really want to look good. We want to acquire something. We want to acquire something for ourselves, a raise, a promotion, a different opportunity. But when our soul is depleted, we just feel like we're not making this meaningful difference that we somehow sense we were designed to make. So I feel like the remedy in burnout, or when you're on the path to burnout, is this soul care that really needs to kick into gear.
So what do you mean by soul care? Is that self-care? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, the difference, well, soul care is more than just self-care. Self-care is really about the external evidence of our well-being, right? How we groom ourselves, adorn ourselves, how healthy we are, when our safety and survival needs are taken care of. The self-care has to do a lot more with the physical aspects and what enables us to look good and maybe even feel good on some level. Soul care has to do with our well-being. It's really making sure that we have this internal foundation of who we are and knowing what we have to offer to people, caring for ourselves in terms of how we think, what we believe, what we want to enable for ourselves and others. And it's about also advocating for our well-being so that we can do what we do for other people. So soul care has a lot to do with our emotional well-being, our emotional wellness, right? Some people may say it also has to do with a spiritual wellness, but I think it's really, I'm not negating that, but I just think it's really feeling this emotional wellness, this sense that you're filled up and able to do what you do for people. So it's more than just striving to look good and feel good. It's about being good and being ready and able to do something you profoundly feel like you were meant to do in this world.
So, given how these people on their road to burnout are feeling overwhelmed, I'm wondering how that someone would get to the place of like, okay, I need soul care now, and I'm like, I can't even handle everything that's on my plate. Like, what is some process or some way they could do this? And does it always need a person from outside to help us with this? Or is this something someone can do on their own?
Yeah. I mean, professional help, I never turn my back on professional help, whether that is with a coach or with a therapist. I think there's always something that you can learn. Sometimes it's helpful to have a process. The process that I outline in my book is something that you can do on your own, and it doesn't take extra time. It's not, this homework that you have to go off and do and figure out, but I outline for people what I call the open method. The open method is really designed, it's a 4-step process. Open is an acronym. The O stands for observation. So it's really about shifting your perspective from observing other people to observing yourself. So for example, if you're at your job and you're feeling like somebody is really draining you or somebody's a lot to be around for you right now, people tend to observe other people and they tend to start making decisions and judgments about other people, like they're not competent, they're not a team player, and so on and so forth. Instead, I offer you this opportunity to observe yourself. So for example, when you're in a team meeting and somebody says that idea will never work, you offer an idea and they say that will never work. Instead of making an observation about them, for example, they're closed-minded, observe what goes on for you when somebody says that to you. When you offer an idea and somebody shuts you down, what does that make you feel? Does that make you feel rejected? Does that make you feel questioned? Does that make you feel caught off guard? And what does it make you think? Does it make you think the other person is the problem? And what does it also make you want to say? Do you want to tell them where to go? Do you want to tell them what you really think? Do you want to just apologize? It's really about getting to observe yourself. So instead of observing others, observe yourself is the first step, and acknowledge that something caught you off guard, something drained you, even in the moment. The second step of the method is the P in open, which stands for pause. So pause is really just about give yourself a moment to absorb what just happened. Give yourself this moment of feeling what you feel and thinking what you think and having an urge to do something, like say something or walk out of a room. Just observe it. And there's nothing you need to do about it, because the truth is that when we're in observation mode, we're not in take action mode. And that's the important part of the pause method. Just allow yourself to be in it and take yourself off the hook for having some kind of, catchy comeback or some turnaround to the situation. There's nothing you need to do. Allow yourself to absorb it. The E in the open method stands for engage. And this part of the process is really important because it doesn't mean engage in problem solving. It doesn't mean engage in what will fix this situation, what will get my idea across, what will make this person stop shutting down my ideas. Engage means figure out something you can do to take care of yourself, because the reality is you did just experience something that drained you. So it's really just about try to take care of yourself. So when I work with clients, I do show them a method for engage, like how do I come up with things that do make me feel a certain way? There's a couple of ways that I always tell people, something is soul nurturing if it leaves you feeling a certain way. And that way is it gives you a sense of peace. It gives you a sense of joy or happiness. It gives you a sense of confidence. It gives you a sense that you're growing and that you're expanding in some way, or that you've learned something that really has meaning for you to learn or to experience. And certainly a sense of peace. Did I say a sense of peace already?
Yeah.
So you really want to, in the book, I explain the specific experiences that you want to have by the things you do. So if that's a walk in the woods, if that really makes you feel peaceful, then it should definitely be something you think about doing to restore yourself. Some things for me can be as little as making sure that I have a lit candle around me with one of my favorite scents. And the reality is, it's not the candle that revives me. It's the act of doing it for myself, knowing that I'm doing this as an act of soul care. I acknowledge I went through something that threw me off or depleted me, and I'm going to do something for myself in the name of restoration. So it can be as simple as something like that. Some of my clients put things on their list, like I love to go skydiving. So when you put a list together of things that really nurture you on a soul level, you don't want to have things that you can't do in the moment. Skydiving is great, but who can do that at 5 o'clock after a meeting that just drained you? So you want to have this list be a combination of things. So engage is all about figure it out. Figure out, what am I going to do to just take care of myself? It's not about solving the problem. And then the last part of the open method is the N, which stands for nurture, which means go do it. Go do the thing that you said you were going to do in the name of soul care. So what's important to this simple method is that when we are practicing soul care, when we're taking care of ourselves, what we open up is this energy that enables us to receive solutions to problems, ideas about what to do next, offers for support or help from other people. Like our energy is in such a way that other people can take care of us. They can offer us help. We can receive that help. And it just allows us to surface ideas and solutions that come from a place of being productive and solution oriented, as opposed to fear-based, right? Angry, upset, knowing what could go wrong, cynicism sets in, and so on. So I really outline this open method in the book in much more detail, and I give lots and lots of examples of things that you can do to engage in some soul nurturing, specifically designed and research backed around exhaustion, around cynicism, and around powerlessness.
What I love about the way you've explained this, Gina, is I could see someone going, I'm too overwhelmed. I'm not going to go walk in the woods now or take my dog, out and play in the park or whatever would be soul nurturing.
Yeah.
Because I'm too busy. But what I'm hearing you say is, yeah, and this is what's going to create the space for you to find that solution with you. It is an act of actually doing something, not just for yourself, but to fix things without going right into problem solving. I think that's an important distinction for people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's so overlooked, right? Because, think about it. In our professional lives, we are so on the hook for what we know, what we've learned, what we've experienced in the past, what we can do, what we can say. And you all know, as financial advisors, that being a professional transcends knowing how to solve a problem. You can't just have a solution. You have to map out that solution. And that solution has to be what, in fact, solved the problem. And any deviation from that can affect the market price of your company, right? Because analysts look at this stuff. They look at their leadership and say, not only do they know how to run this company, but their ideas, they're on the hook for what needs to be done and how it needs to be accomplished. So there's so much stress just by nature of being a professional of any occupation to go right into problem solving mode, to know exactly what needs to be done and how to do it. This method takes you off the hook for that. It's just about take care of yourself and allow a solution to surface from that soul, from that truth of who you are, from what's easy for you to deliver on, not from your ego, which is all about looking good, is all about taking care of other people and their needs because the ego wants to look good, right? So it's got to do what it thinks is going to make other people happy. That too much of that is exactly what depletes us in the first place. So that's what I love the most. And that's what my clients tell me they love about this method, because it's easy. This observation work and these simple solutions, it's easy to implement right in the course of their day.
So, I want to get into talking about like your team and how you can be there for them. But I just want to ask, like, I could see I've had a very busy day. I'm tired of talking to people. I'm feeling depleted. And I turn on my favorite Netflix show, or I do something that, feels like I'm taking care of myself. But I will say that before I go to sleep, I don't necessarily feel better. Do you find that there's things that people think they're doing to regenerate, but don't really serve them?
Yeah, that's a great point, Ellen. And again, earlier I said you cannot fix a depleted soul with solutions designed for the ego. Solutions designed for the ego often leave us feeling, I say, neutral, numb, or negative, right? And at best, justified. Solutions for the soul leave us feeling connected with a sense of purpose, positive possibility, and validated, meaning validated for really who we are. So I have nothing against a good binge watching on Netflix, or having an occasional glass of wine at the end of a particularly rough day, or donning your favorite sweatpants 5 nights in a row. But you have to understand those things don't fix a depleted soul. So really, this sense of, that's why I offer these 6 specific emotions or experiences that people may have, to really let you know, is this an act or something I can do that's really going to revive my soul, or is it just ego? Ego looks for solutions outside of itself, right? I need a beer. I need Netflix. I need my favorite slippers. I need to spend time with my girlfriend who solves all of my problems. There's always some solution outside of yourself. Soul nurturing solutions, the power is within yourself. It comes from, like I said, what gives you that sense of peace, joy, fulfillment, growth, confidence, bonding with others in a meaningful way, balance, security. So I really outline in great detail what is the difference in the book between what just nurtures the ego and what takes care of the soul. Because the important thing, Ellen, is what nurtures the soul takes care of the ego as well. But the ego is all about the ego. It doesn't care about the soul, doesn't care about anything else. So what we do that fills our ego doesn't take care of our soul.
So Gina, I want to make sure we touch on team members or staff. Advisors tell me all the time that they can't keep good staff. It's hard to find people, that it's like a revolving door. They hire the wrong person.
Yeah.
And I think this is important to talk about, like, how do we, especially in more stressful times like advisors are dealing with now, how do they support the people that are working on their team to avoid going into burnout?
Yeah. So I really think the best solutions that people can do when it comes to their staff is, first and foremost, to walk the talk, as we say, right? So you want to make sure that you're practicing soul care. You're practicing something like the open method. And I think it's important to talk about it. We don't talk about with our staff, what do we do? What do you do to restore? Do you talk about that with your staff? Most people don't talk about, oh, I went home and I put on my sweatpants and I watched Netflix or Game of Thrones 5 episodes till 2 a.m. But we want to talk about what we do that's soul nurturing. I think it's really important to have that conversation, because oftentimes we will adopt things that people we know, like, and trust do. So the more you can talk about what do you do to restore on a soul level every day, or especially when you're experiencing depleting moments, then talk about that with the people on your staff. I know a client that I had he was an executive creative director. He would start every meeting out with some kind of creative exercise or something. And he started saying, let's talk about something we did that was really soul nurturing. What is that to you? So he opened up this as like an icebreaker to his regular staff meetings. So you have to demonstrate that you're doing it yourself. The other thing is, I think that you really have to hold yourself and other people accountable for what do you want to enable. I think that's a really powerful question. When people come to you with a problem or an issue, whether it's personal or business, it's really important to say to them, what's the, not just what's the outcome that you want, but what is it that you want to enable here in the situation? And listen to people, listen to their fear, listen to what they hope will come out of it, and really try to keep the conversation on what it is they want to achieve, much more so than the complaining about what's going wrong.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Gina. This is so helpful, especially now. I love that you gave us the open method about observation and pause and engage and nurture. It's given me lots of ideas. One of the things I'm most proud of when I had my practice is I never had anybody quit on me. I had several people retire and I had to let a couple of people go. But I think part of, as I'm hearing this, one of the things was that I would share what I was doing in that situation and tried to lower the stress in the office, because there's plenty of things I wasn't great at in terms of being a manager, but people stuck around for some reason.
Right.
So thank you. Thank you. And for those of you listening and watching, please go get Gina's book. You can get it on Amazon and probably other places you get your books.
Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble, From Burnout to Purpose. And Gina,
there's an audio book too.
There's an audio book, because I know lots of
Yes.
people are listening to books and then they say, I read a book. But anyway,
Right.
interesting. There is an audio book. Gina, if people want to get in touch with you, either for, obviously, you know, Gina's great at explaining concepts, so bring her into your organization to speak, working one-on-one with her, or just certainly getting started with her book, where should people go?
They can email me at info@indigoforce.com, or they can check out more about the book at fromburnout-to-purpose.com.
And I think there's a special offer. If you go to Gina's site, from burnout-to-purpose.com, you can get a free download of her workbook that goes along with the book, which is so helpful to make sure you're actually following these easy to use methods. So Gina, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen.
And thank you to all of you listening and watching. Again, my name is Ellen Rogin. You can find out more about me at ellenrogin.com. I have programs all the time for advisors and other people, for organizations. And if you'd like to download my special report about what extraordinary advisors know that others don't, you can go to ellenrogin.com, ELLENROGIN.com/horse's mouth, and download that report there. So thank you for each and every one of you. The question to ponder today is, how are you going to do more soul care for yourself? Remember, be great and create great every single day.